Hey guys, I'm TT.
And I'm Beck.
And we're with the kids call
Woke or whatever.
Okay, so as you guys can see, for those that are watching us and not listening to us, we are in a new studio space. We are currently testing out studios. Hopefully, this is the one that we stick with. This is Studio Girl Crush, where we're here as guests for another podcast that may or may not come out by the time this episode comes out. And we enjoyed the space, so we wanted to come back. And this is also our first episode of the year, kicking off Black History Month with this episode as well, because we had to be back
As usual.
for Black History Month, of
Very.
course. So we're really excited to be here. Really excited about the topic. We're very looking forward to starting the year off on such a great note with an episode like this with such an amazing guest. But I'm gonna let Beck introduce the guest, introduce the topic.
So, aujourd'hui, le sujet de l'épisode, ça va être la neurodivergence. La neurodivergence, spécifiquement chez les femmes noires, parce qu'il y a juste des femmes noires sur le plateau. La raison pour laquelle ce sujet en particulier est vraiment important pour nous, parce que toutes les personnes qui ont un mic sont neurodivergentes. Moi, je viens d'avoir mon diagnostic sur du TDAH à 26 ans, fait que ça fait comme... Là, ça va faire genre 3 semaines environ que j'ai mon diagnostic, puis je suis vraiment excitée. Je dirais qu'il y a 1 an, je savais même pas c'était quoi, clairement un TDAH, autre que comme, quand un petit garçon blanc est excité, he may have ADHD. J'avais aucune connaissance en, quoi que ce soit, puis là, maintenant que comme je sais que I have like ADHD, I'm like, that's my only personality traits. On passe 5 minutes. And one thing about me, I'm going to tell you, I have ADHD.
You've been said that before even the diagnosis.
So I've been said that. Puis là, je suis comme, like, now, like, tu peux pas me contester. Like, I have, like, the diagnosis. Fait que, la raison pourquoi la guest, présentement, comme, qui est importante, like, on va la présenter, mais personnellement, durant ma journée, pour, comme, figure out est-ce que j'ai un ADHD, puis, comme, le diagnostic et tout, c'était vraiment long et vraiment, vraiment difficile. Puis la seule raison pour laquelle que je suis arrivée au point que comme j'ai un diagnostic, c'est parce qu'il y avait j'avais une communauté autour de moi qui était comme, qui m'a validée, qui m'a encouragée, qui m'ont donné des ressources. Fait que vraiment, shout-out à ces personnes-là, shout-out à Titi, shout-out à Jess, shout-out à Mel, ma cousine, like all these people were like here for me. Puis il y a eu un moment où j'ai eu un breakdown parce que comme I was like invalidated par des professionnels and I was really, really down. Puis genre, Kayla just rushed in my DMs. Non seulement pour comme valider ce que je disais, mais pour me donner une liste de ressources comme puis c'est valide, puis c'est comme like we all go through this, puis c'est genre you can do it. Puis je vous promets, si j'avais pas ces personnes-là, j'aurais pas pu faire comme toute cette journée. Fait que j'ai laissé Kayla s'introduire. C'est elle qu'on a sur notre plateau présentement. Comme yeah!
Hi. Well, thank you so much for having me. I'm really honored that you reached out to me for this. It's really something that I hold like really close to my heart because it's just having that confirmation, or even I should say that discovery or identification about myself, knowing that I am neurodivergent, has been life-changing. It really has. The immense amount of compassion that I'm now able to give myself that I didn't have before because I didn't have the language or the tools to explain my experiences. It's been really like a relief for me. So I'm really honored to be here. And honestly, Beck, when I saw that message, when I saw you breaking down and the way that you've been invalidated by a professional that's actually supposed to, listen to your experience and take it as something valid and kind of help you and offer you resources, I could relate to that. And I know a lot of Black women can relate to that, being validated by their doctors. And so I really just wanted to reach out to you and let you know, like, you're never alone in those feelings, and for one, and also you're never alone kind of like getting the door closed on you. And like having professionals tell you that, like, well, no, like, you should just deal with it, or like, it'll pass. Like, how you feel is totally valid. So
ouais.
I'm really glad I was able to be a part of that journey for you as well.
Puis aussi la raison pour laquelle on veut en parler, c'est que premièrement, plus on en parle, plus genre j'ai des gens dans mes DM, genre there's so many Black women asking for help, pour être comme où aller, est-ce que public ou privé, puis tu sais quoi, genre juste quelle route emprunter parce que elles ont essayé, ça n'a pas fonctionné, ou elles pensent qu'elles l'ont, puis elles ne savent pas où aller, comme elles relate sur ce que je dis, comme « Oh, maybe I have it, maybe I don't » comme, si on voulait faire un épisode, c'est comme, on peut en parler, on peut parler des ressources, on peut parler de genre, c'est quoi, comme, tu sais, on peut valider aussi les gens qui n'ont pas de diagnostic officiel, parce que one thing, yes, one thing, c'est pas un genre de comme, OK, you have to get, genre, t'es valide, que t'es un diagnostic et que comme t'es
self-diagnosis is totally valid.
Ouais.
You're an expert on your own lived experiences, right?
Yeah.
So
yeah.
And I think Beck and I both kind of started our journey of like, do we have ADHD together? I think it's really interesting because Beck and I, we started the podcast in almost 3 years ago now.
What?
Literally.
2019.
And we've worked so well together, and we always say this, I never work well with people, like I don't do group work, mainly because it's just a lot of pressure on me, especially when I know that I may not be able to perform to the best of my abilities. And I think the main reason why Beck and I work so well together is because our brains are literally, we work the same way, and it's not it's not the most effective way, but we get it. Like, we get each other.
It's effective for both of you.
Ouais,
Yeah.
ouais. En fait, ça marche, ça fonctionne pas vraiment avec like what people expect from us. Surtout, genre, when we kind of grew, like, and had followers, les gens expectaient comme to see, OK, c'est genre là, vous devrez avoir plein d'opportunités. Là, vous devrez... First of all, I don't know how nothing works. Like, I did
nothing.
Like, nothing. On sait jamais qu'est-ce qui se passe. Comme, what's the email? Like, qu'est-ce que ça veut
What
dire?
does that mean?
We're always like...
And it's not even like a quirky thing. It's like we
non,
don't know.
On comprend pas.
But you're tackling it together.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, and like we get it. Like and it's hard to explain. Like, I get why there's so many unanswered DMs, and I get why I'm not able to do it, and I get why she's not able to do it. So no one is getting on each other, but at the same time, it is really frustrating, and we're gonna get into all of that.
Yeah. On va arriver, mais we basically wanted everybody to know that it's two mental ill bitches like that. Sorry, that podcast.
Been.
Puis, yeah, so that's that. Mais ce qu'on va commencer à faire, c'est breakdown, c'est quoi la neurodivergence, qu'est-ce que ça veut dire. Et on n'allait pas faire un épisode without giving any definition. So, je vais vous dire la première définition que j'ai trouvée, and like, how I feel about it, and like, ensuite, genre, qu'est-ce que comme ça veut vraiment dire. So, quand on parle de neurodiversité, de neurodivergence, c'est vraiment différence neurologique, c'est vraiment ces deux mots, like, put together. Puis ça dit, la définition que j'ai trouvée, c'est quelqu'un qui est considéré comme neurodivergente, elle est considérée neurodivergente lorsque son cerveau apprend, fonctionne et traite l'information différemment de celui de la majorité. Puis majorité was described as les personnes dont le cerveau fonctionne conformément aux attentes de la société et qui sont appelées les personnes qui sont neurotypiques. So basically, c'est un peu survival of the fittest, I feel.
Yeah.
Quand j'ai lu la définition, parce que c'est basically, well, t'es neurodivergent if you can keep up. Whatever system is in place. Puis les gens qui sont dits neurotypiques, c'est les personnes qui they thrive, they survive like within like the system, capitalistic, patriarchal, y'all know the deal. Mais ce qu'il faut comprendre avec la neurodivergence, c'est que c'est pas un terme scientifique, c'est un terme sociologique, c'est un terme politique, c'est un mouvement neurodiversité. Comme quand tu vas te faire un test, puis le médecin te dit, OK, comme you have ADHD, it's not like, congrats, you're neurodivergent. It's like, you're mentally ill, bitch. Here's c'est plus ça, là. Puis c'est ça qui est un peu difficile, genre, quand tu commences à te poser des questions, it's like the first question is like, what's wrong with me? Genre, pourquoi je peux pas faire ce que les autres font? Comme people are thriving. Puis ce qui est bizarre avec le TDAH, c'est qu'il y a plein de symptômes du TDAH qu'une personne neurotypique a, genre, in like a daily basis. Fait que c'est juste comme, oh, moi aussi, je peux pas me concentrer dans l'âme. But you know how it feels like? It feels like, tu sais, quand tout le monde dit que, genre, oh, j'ai coulé l'examen, but they didn't really fail. Genre, j'ai coulé l'examen, but they have like 90, but you really fail, like you are 30%.
My whole life.
C'est exactement, that's how it felt. Like, quand tu dis que t'as un TDAH, puis t'es genre, comme, je peux pas me concentrer, je mets mes trucs à la dernière minute, c'est comme, yeah, me too, but you're doing it, genre, puis, and I'm not. Fait que c'est un peu, genre, c'est un peu ça, like, that's the feeling. Fait que neurodivergence, le terme a été coin dans les années 90 par une sociologiste qui s'appelle Judy Singer. Puis elle, dans le fond, ce qu'elle dit, que la neurodiversité, c'est juste ça, c'est la neurodiversité. Puis même elle, dans sa définition, elle dit même les gens qui sont dits neurotypiques sont neurodivergents juste parce qu'il n'y a personne qui pense de la même façon. Et sa philosophie, c'est la même façon que la planète a besoin de biodiversité pour thrive, pour être en santé. C'est la même façon que notre société a besoin de reconnaître toutes les neurodivergences pour, comme, make sense to everyone pour qu'on puisse thrive.
Yeah.
Fait que c'est vraiment genre l'idée derrière la neurodivergence and like what it means and everything.
Yeah. Yeah. So for you, Kayla,
Yeah.
what made you suspect that you were neurodivergent? Was it something that you knew early on? Was it something that people close to you had to point out for you to then be like, okay, there might be something different with me? Like, where did that process begin for you?
Yeah, for me, well, I've always known that I'm different. Everyone's different. That's the way that I think. That's the way that I kind of like understand humans. We're all individuals. But I guess maybe around like elementary school, end of elementary school, I started to notice my differences. I should also say I'm a Black woman, one of the few Black kids in my school. That's a difference. So I think it's like all of my intersections of my identities started to kind of reveal themselves to me throughout like my schooling. And that's also when like social situations are kind of more like demanded from you in school. So I've always known I was different, but it was never like necessarily a problem until I had to be like in certain structures. So in school, you're expected to act a certain way. In church, you're expected to act a certain way. As a woman or as a girl, you're expected to sit a certain way and like wear certain clothes. And so I think it only became a problem when it became a problem for people outside of myself. And so that also brings me back to something I wanted to say earlier when you were talking about like the view of ADHD and how like neurodiversity is really not a medical term, not at all. It's like ADHD, it's attention deficit hyperactivity disorder. Like that's the medical model, and the medical model is something that's like the neurodiversity movement is completely against. It's looking at the way that we operate, the way that our brains work as like a problem that needs to be solved. And the reason that it's viewed that way, it's because we have real life struggles. This is valid. It's true. There's things that are really, really hard and that we can't do, and that's valid. I'm not going to say ADHD is a superpower because it's still a set of symptoms and like things that we struggle with, some things that we're really good at. But the reason that the medical model views it as like a bad thing is because it prohibits us from being productive in a capitalist society. So it's like, oh, if you have trouble concentrating, or you have trouble concentrating, so you can't study, so you're getting poor grades in school, so you're not gonna grow up and be a doctor and be a lawyer and make money for your country and and some company. Like, you're not useful to capitalism, so you're a problem. Like, you can't work full time because you're depressed. That's not useful. So we have to give you pills so that you can become useful to us. So that's like the medical view of neurodiversity, but the social view of it, or the social model, is really looking at it as like, we're all different. We all like process information differently. And so of course we will all behave differently. And we all have like different roles to play within a community, and that it shouldn't be viewed as like a bad thing. It's just a difference, and that we should support each other in ways that we can, because since we all have like strengths and weaknesses, we should just be supporting each other and recognizing our differences. I'm not saying we're all the same. We all struggle with that, because no, that's not true. But we should be recognizing our differences and then supporting each other as a community. And so I've always noticed my differences, but I think as I've gotten older and after my diagnosis as well, I've kind of shifted towards looking at it in a more social way instead of like a medical, like there's something wrong with me, I'm broken, why don't people like me, why can't I keep friends, why can't I keep a job, because those are the thoughts that were running in my head for years and most of my life.
Are you comfortable sharing your diagnosis?
I don't mind, yeah, I'm definitely comfortable. I'm autistic, so that's something that's really, it's been a confirmation, because I'm autistic and I have ADHD, but I was born autistic and I had ADHD. I had the same brain. So just because you're late diagnosed doesn't mean that you just now developed ADHD. You've had it forever. So you're the same person. I'm the same person I always was, but my view of myself is completely different because before I was like, there's something wrong with me. No one around me is struggling the way I am. I have to try harder. I have to like force myself to be neurotypical. No, I have no desire to be neurotypical because I'm not, and that's okay. So that's kind of like my view of neurodiversity.
You said something that was interesting when you said the way that people expect you to behave, the way people expect a woman to behave, and I think that is very much when we look at women and we look at the expectations put on gender, put on specific genders. Women are starting from childhood, girls are not diagnosed the same way that boys are, mainly because for different reasons, but one of the reasons is as women, as girls growing up, we are conditioned to be very emotionally intelligent, emotionally aware, and therefore we internalize a lot of our issues. So our undiagnosed ADHD, what that leads to is a lot of anxiety, a lot of depression, a lot of issues of self-esteem, because there are certain societal expectations that are put on women, and we're very much aware of that.
Definitely.
We are valued for the things that we do, how structured we are, how organized we are, how put together we are. We're especially if we add on being a Black woman on top of that, being the backbone and when you know that you're literally unable to be that backbone, or you're unable to be that structured, have all my shit together, you begin to question almost your worth as a woman.
Of course.
And I think that's one thing that I've struggled with a lot.
Yeah. Mais c'est vraiment intéressant ce que tu dis parce que so 1 year ago, for Black History Month, we released an episode on ableism avec Ali. So it's really like complémentaire. Yeah, it's a full circle. Again, Black History Month, but now it's like mental illness. Dans le fond, ce que Ali disait, she was like, you know, the strong Black woman stereotype, like we have to be strong and everything, da da da. Puis elle est comme, it's weird because I literally need help. Like, I'm really fragile and I cannot do, there's a lot of things that I can't do. Like, I need help. I cannot be strong for, like, no one. And that's, like, how it feels, genre, like I need help. Like,
all the time.
All the time. Genre, pour comprendre plein d'affaires. Tu sais, being diagnosed, genre, quand je disais, I read a lot, genre, quand j'étais genre, do I have ADHD or not? Puis il y a beaucoup de gens qui disaient comme, when you have ADHD, like, you feel lost or you look lost a lot. Puis les gens sont toujours comme, est-ce que tu m'écoutes? Like, are you there?
Exactly.
Puis je me force tellement. I remember I had a boss qui était comme, Rebecca, on dirait que tu me regardes pas dans les yeux quand tu... And I was like, yo, I'm trying. I'm literally like, j'essaie vraiment de s'écouter.
I'm so hard to focus and you think that I'm lost.
Yeah, and I'm lost. Moi, c'est ça, j'étais comme... Puis j'étais juste comme, est-ce que je suis bizarre? And I remember, like... C'est vraiment bizarre parce que plus tu lis, more you have, like... You remember things from you being, like, younger que tu faisais. I was in the basketball team. Puis mon coach, je trouvais que j'étais jamais focus. C'est comme, Rebecca, tu sais jamais t'es où, you know. Puis once I was benched, parce que il était juste comme... Il a dit quelque chose, I didn't understand. Like, I didn't do anything. Puis il était comme, okay, you're just not there, like, sit.
Yeah.
And I was so lost, I was like, what just happened? Puis je pensais que c'était juste... I was just like... J'étais juste perdue dans la vie. I was like, oh, okay, I guess...
And it's crazy because same, and I think there's even a term for executive dysfunction or daydreaming, basically.
Yeah.
I've always struggled with that to the point where it's almost become like part of my personality trait. Like, okay, tu es dans la lune, genre, tu sais, like c'est la perdue, genre, and it's like you almost have to own it that way, because otherwise you're gonna have to. Otherwise, you need to sit with the fact that, like, no, it's actually not even. It's not something quirky that I've adopted. It's actually how I am, and it's an issue.
I think it's like, well, because also with all of these messages, like you were saying, like your coach or like teachers. Like for me, one of the comments I got on my report card all the time was like, "She's a pleasure to have in class, but she doesn't seem to really be there. Or like, she's like a really great student, really great marks, but like, she seems bored. Like, I'm doodling, or I'm like, they used to call me a space cadet because I'm always just, I'd finish the exercise and I would just be like looking out the window or like doodling or like drawing on my leg or something like that. But it's like, that's just the way that I process. But we internalize all of those messages. So it's like, maybe I am lazy. Maybe I am a space cadet. Maybe I can't focus. Maybe.
Yeah.
And then you start to doubt yourself. And like you were saying before, Titi, you were saying it makes you question your worth as a woman. Of course, it also makes you start to question your worth as start to make you question your capabilities in general.
Yeah.
And especially as a woman, as a Black woman, you're like, I'm supposed to be resilient, I'm supposed to be strong, but if I'm genuinely having these real life issues and no one's able to recognize them, then there must be something wrong with you. There must be something wrong with me. And because of that, that's where like the anxiety and the depression really comes in. And that's really like the medical, I should say, like the negative consequences of being undiagnosed like neurodivergent. Is because you're going through life not understanding why you're struggling and trying to like make yourself adhere to like your idea of how you should be, which is neurotypical based on what other people are telling you, but you're not able to live up to that expectation. And so of course then you're going to have depression, you're going to have anxiety, whatever other mental illness. But like ADHD and autism and like those are not mental illnesses at all, because there's nothing wrong with that. That's just your brain and how it works. But it's basically growing up with that brain and it being traumatized. That's what you're struggling with. You're struggling with the depression, the anxiety as a result of it.
And I definitely think it gets worse as you grow older.
100%.
In adulthood, I think for as long as I can remember, knew that I was like, there was something that wasn't clicking. Like there was just something, because I was a very disruptive child, not necessarily at home, but at school. I was very disruptive, like very disruptive. I was kicked out every single day. When I was in elementary school, we had, when you were getting kicked out, you had what we called a feuille bleue. And to this day, like I'll be cleaning and I find random feuilles bleues. I had them stacked up. I had so many, and I was always getting kicked out of class. Always getting kicked out of class. And I've always struggled with basic tasks, like the most basic task. And I think it only really started to take a toll on my self-esteem as an adult, because you could get away with it as a kid.
Of course.
It's like, okay, I don't know how to do this, but like my mom's gonna do it for me.
Exactly.
I don't know how to do this, but it's okay. I'm just a kid anyways. Most kids don't know how to do this.
Exactly.
But then you start to grow, and then you start to see everyone around you being able to do these things, and it's like, but I'm still left behind. And it's so hard to verbalize, because especially when you are around neurotypical people.
Exactly.
My closest friends have their shit together. Like my two best friends they have their shit together. Even if they say they don't, I'm like, you do. Like I wish, for me, the idea of like being a full-time university student, going to work, and then making plans, for me, that seems impossible. It's like one or the other. And I see that, and it's like, how can you even verbalize your struggles when their struggles are nowhere near? Like my struggle, sis, is like making an appointment for my optometrist. I'm putting it off for the last years. It's been years. Because the thought of making that phone call gives me so much anxiety, and I don't even know how to explain it, because your issues are issues I can't even imagine tackling, because I can't even get past this little step. And I think that's what eats you up as you grow older, because it's like, okay, now I'm an adult and I'm supposed to do these things. Before I didn't really have to. Now I have to do these things, and it's expected of me to do these things. And I'm kind of pretending like I'm doing these things.
Oh, yeah.
So the masking itself is so draining, and I constantly am in a state of being overwhelmed. Always.
Sure. Perpetually
Always.
overwhelmed. That's
I'm overwhelmed when I'm
ADHD
not
is
doing
like.
anything, because I'm overwhelmed at the fact that I'm not doing anything.
Yeah.
Of course, yeah. My therapist is always like, "Did you relax this week?" I'm like, "I don't think I've ever been relaxed." What do you mean? I have to consciously be like, "You're relaxed now." That's not relaxing, because I'm like thinking about all the things that I'm ignoring. So I'm not actually relaxing.
C'est exactement ça.
Yeah.
C'est exactement ça. Puis c'est drôle parce que tu dis que you were like misbehaving at school. J'ai jamais eu de problème à l'école. I was always like a good student. Le pire, comme en même temps, c'est comme she talks a lot, but like the work is being done et tout. C'est quand j'ai commencé à avoir des jobs, like going from job to job. Like j'ai eu comme 18 jobs dans ma vie, and it's soit que comme I get bored and I switch. Soit je me suis renvoyée, but à chaque fois que je suis renvoyée, I don't understand really what happened. Puis genre, c'est comme, it's always like, oh, you're so great. Parce que I'm really good at interview. I'm really like, and it feels like we're best friends. And like, people, comme ils veulent m'engager, puis quand ils m'engagent, ils sont juste comme, yo, that's not the girl.
She's scamming us.
Yo, she comes in full nigga mode.
Yo, fraud. Comme, il y a tellement de boss qui me disent genre, j'avais vraiment beaucoup d'expectations for you. Like, but c'est comme si I don't know how to do nothing. Fait que c'est juste genre, comme, pourquoi ça, les Rebecca d'où ça, comme, puis ça fait que je vais de job en job, puis again, comme si tu as dit, like it's a joke. Genre, people joke about it. My family's gonna joke about it. Like, and you have to take it as a joke parce que c'est genre, si tu t'assois, t'es juste comme, yo, why can I keep a job? Bro,
I don't know.
Like, you sit down and like, okay, but I can't keep a job. So
you need a job to survive.
Exactly.
Like, it doesn't work. It does not
literally
work.
we met at work and like I blink and this bitch is not there anymore. Like, she's out.
That's so funny though, but Titi, when you said that you used to get in trouble in school, it really made me curious. Like, what exactly did you get in trouble for? Like, what exactly were the behaviors?
Talking. I talked a lot, and I was very disrespectful to teachers.
Yes.
I was really very rude to. I had no respect for authority.
Same.
I was very very rude to a lot of my. Like, I've had to like. As a grown up, I've written like sorry notes and stuff. Like, I was rude. I was rude to teachers. But I think it's interesting, and we're going to touch on it later when we talk about the effects it has on Black people.
Exactly.
But I looking back, I'm like, I was very disruptive, and I don't know why I was never taken to the side to actually like see if there was something wrong with me.
Like, were you just bored? Could have, like, maybe that's it.
I never liked school.
That's it, yeah.
Like, I never liked school. And I was disruptive from the age of 5 to, like, 16. And the only reason I stopped being disruptive at
it's a badass little kid.
Yeah. Like, you thought it ended at, like, 10? Like, no, I was there. High school, I was a whole demon. Like, no, 16. And the only reason it stopped at 16 is because I started skipping a lot at 16.
Yeah, she just wasn't there. So I wasn't just...
My last 2 years of high school, you'll be lucky if you caught me doing more than 2 classes in a day, in a 4-class day. Like, I was just never in class. I just really couldn't care less. So yeah, I never had a good relationship with school.
For me, it's like, I did really well in school. Like, I found school very, very easy. Like, I know this is another thing about, like, late diagnosed ADHD people. Like, there's, like, this, back in the day, they used to call them gifted kids. I'm not going to tell you I'm gifted, because, like, that's not it. But they used to say, like, gifted kids that really had, like, no problems doing homework. Like, they could read a whole book in, like, one day. And, like, I was really that kid. Like, I was just super tapped in. I wanted to learn everything. And so I found school super boring. Like, elementary school, I'll say. I found it super mind-numbingly boring. Like, we're learning things, and I was like, I already know how to write cursive. Like, I don't care about this. So I would finish my work, and then everyone else would still be working, and I would be bored. So I'd be, like, doing graffiti on the desk, or I'd be, like, doodling, or I'd be, like, doing cartwheels in the back of the classroom. So it's, like, I get in trouble for, like, distracting other kids. But my grades were all perfect. So they were like, we don't understand why you're disrupting the class, but, like, you understand. And I also didn't really care about authority either. So, and I also think I really have a tendency to answer things very, like, literally, very, very, very literally. And as a little Black girl, that's taken as attitude always. So it's like, do you just not want to be here? Well, no, I don't want to be here, and I'll get up and I'll leave the class. You know? And apparently that's rude, but you asked me a question. Yeah. So I used to get in trouble a lot, but it was because I was bored.
Like a smart ass?
Yeah, but it's like, I wasn't even aware I was a smart ass until people were telling me I was a smart ass, and then I'm like, okay, I'll tap in. I'll be a smart ass. But it's like, a lot of the times if I look back and I think about it, it's like I was just bored and understimulated, and I didn't know what to do with myself, so I got in trouble.
And also, Et pour ajouter avec ce que tu dis, justement, like, not, like, l'autorité doesn't make sense. Parce que des fois, on me disait des trucs, puis je suis comme, it does not make sense.
Well, yeah.
Puis genre, quand mes boss me demandaient, like, why are you not doing this? In my head, like, it does not make sense. Like, you ask me to smile, but est-ce que tu vas me payer plus if I smile? Like, I need to, like, il faut qu'il y ait une équation that kind of makes sense in my head. Puis if it doesn't, sometimes it makes sense, puis je vais pas le faire. Fait imagine if it doesn't, I'm just like, no, it's not. Puis j'étais comme, on m'appelle dans le bureau, on est comme, là, Rebecca, là, ça fonctionne pas. Parce que je suis juste comme, anyway, je suis comme, yo, if you really have a problem, you're gonna fire me.
Yeah.
Exactly. And it's because also the way our brains work, it's like we can't force ourselves to do something we don't want to do. Like, of course, everyone in life has to do things they don't want to do. We know this. I understand this from a logical point of view, of course, but like, it's work, it's effort for us to force ourselves to do something that we don't want to do and we don't understand why we have to do it. Like, why should I respect you because you're older than me, or like, I don't know, there's certain things like we have to justify it to ourselves in our brains for it to be like easier to perform. So I think that's why we run into a lot of conflict like growing up, because there's just rules all around us when we're growing up. That's how it works. So
It's nothing but rules pour the
exactly, and we're like, no.
Est-ce que for your diagnosis, what was like the process, like really the journey in the way, like, you have autism and ADHD? Is it like you noticed it at first and then you went on and like to find out what it was, or like it was like your friends or your family, your parents, like who made the first move, and like how was it? Because me, it was hell. So how was your?
Yeah, for me it's kind of like, it honestly wasn't like a straight path, like kind of journey. Like it's kind of hard to answer the question, because I've struggled with mental illness for a really long time. Like depression, anxiety, I've struggled with that since high school. And so I previously was diagnosed with something. So I had a misdiagnosis that I was carrying around for a while that didn't really like fit with me 100%, but that I just kind of I took on. I was like, okay, I guess this must make sense, because professionals told me this and they know what they're talking about. So I'd struggled with depression a lot. I struggled with anxiety. So I had known that like there's a reason for my struggles. Like I had known that there was some part of the equation at least before. But when ADHD came to my radar was probably about like 2 years ago. Started seeing TikToks for sure, like a lot of people will say, was like the pandemic, we're all home, we're exposed to a lot more information, you have time to like research.
That's exactly
research as well.
And a lot of people have, and that's why a lot of people are like, oh, it's like so trendy now. It's like, no, it's not. People are just home sitting with themselves and have access to information and are learning about themselves. So there's nothing wrong with that at all. So just TikTok, I started seeing like videos and I'm like, maybe that kind of makes sense. Like, I'd never written it off. My, like in my family, I will say there's some people that are very like they represent like the stereotypical idea of ADHD. If you know what I mean. If you mean like, before at the beginning of the episode, I think you were saying like, a little boy, hyperactive, like running around, won't listen. Like there are. I do have like representations of that in my family, so like even my brother. So I was like, it's not like, it wouldn't be crazy if I have ADHD, but I never fit like that idea of it. I was never hyper. I was like a really like relatively well-behaved girl in school. I went to church. I did the dishes. I was like between my family. I was always like super, super helpful, and like, it's that emotional intelligence, right? Because you're socialized and raised as a girl. Of course, you have to be good. You have to like be polite and like. So I think it was never like my parents never even suspected that I had ADHD, because they're like, no, like you do well in school and you like, you can take care of yourself. We don't have to worry about you. We never had to worry about you. You're fine. But the ways, like the TikTok videos really got me thinking like, oh, I internalized all of that stuff. Oh, that's why my anxiety levels are so high. It's because I had these struggles, but I couldn't show them to anyone because everyone was like, she has it together. She's fine. And so when I saw all those videos, I was like, you know what? Maybe I should like talk to someone about this. Like maybe because like the depression and anxiety was just getting worse and worse and worse. And then the pandemic hit, and at work, I was working like a full-time like corporate job after graduation, my first full-time corporate job, and it was going really great for like the first year. And then after that, I got into severe burnout because I'm like, I'm masking every single day with these white people. And I have to go in the office and pretend that I'm neurotypical, and it was killing my spirit. And so the pandemic hit, I could work from home, super, super happy, but then my depression got so much worse because I didn't know what to do with myself.
Yeah.
And those like negative thoughts that we were talking about before, the whole like you questioning your worth or like saying, why can't I do this? And we're in a pandemic, people are starting businesses, people are, hustle, grind culture. I was just like, I'm drowning. And I understand like, you don't have to compare yourself to people. I know this, but it kind of reinforced thoughts that I had been having all throughout CEGEP, all throughout university. Like, how come everyone around me, they have a 5-year plan, they're networking, they're doing this, they have all these plans for the future, but I'm struggling and I'm still struggling. And so I got to a really, really dark place. Like I was just really, really depressed and like spiraling down worse and worse. And I had that misdiagnosis. And when I tried to get treatment for that, it wasn't helping. It wasn't helping me. I felt really isolated and alone, and just like, honestly, I didn't want to be here anymore. Of course, also the state of the world was really depressing.
Yeah.
It was just a really, really dark time in my life. And so I had reached out to a therapist of mine. I knew that therapist was not specialized in ADHD at all, because I don't know about you, Becky, but if you tried to find like ADHD specialized like
I've tried
folks for adults, it doesn't exist.
Really, I can't find anything.
No, because they think that we grow out of it or something when you're adults. It's so hard to find like resources and treatment centers that will accept adults. It's really, really hard. So luckily, like they put me in contact with someone that could see me, and so I wasn't able to make the phone call. You know that.
A little more content.
Trust.
I wasn't able to make the phone call at all, but how do I put this? Because I was feeling more and more depressed, I ended up being in a place where I had access to a lot of psychologists and neuropsychologists, and so in having like one-on-one conversations with them, one of them brought up the idea of autism. And I was like, that wasn't even on my radar. I was like, maybe I have ADHD or something, and like, or I'm depressed, maybe give me some pills or something, but no, they're like, maybe autism. And so with that information, it really like sent me on the deep dive to research. Like I should have like a PhD in like neuropsychology. I'm joking because I'm not qualified, but like I should, okay? Because I went on the biggest deep dive of all the articles I can find on ADHD, autism in women specifically. There isn't that much information, but I found it all. ADHD, like I was looking at videos of Black women speaking on their experiences with ADHD and autism. I found like a really great community on Clubhouse of Black neurodivergent women. And honestly, shout out to them because they saved my life. So just hearing and discussing with other people on their experiences really is what like pushed me to like accept that within myself. So once I had self-diagnosed and I had like realized like, okay, I'm autistic. I'm autistic. Like this makes sense. I have ADHD. Like my struggles are valid. I don't just have to try harder. I don't have to keep beating myself up. At that point, I was able to like make the assessment and actually get like a full assessment, and that's when I got like my official diagnosis and that confirmation. But I do want to like really say again, like self-diagnosis is super valid, because it was really hard for me. It would have been really hard for me to get that formal diagnosis if I hadn't done all that research, if I hadn't been in such a dark, low place where I was like, I felt like I had no other options. I would not have gotten that diagnosis because no one would have taken me seriously. my doctor, the only reason he even like gave me the information is because he could tell I was like desperate. I didn't like, there was no other options, and I had been suffering for years and nothing else was helping. No medications, no diagnosis, nothing was helping me. And so I really want to like make it super clear that if like your lived experience is so valid, you know what you've been struggling with, you know how you feel in your body, in your mind, and you know, like, a professional confirmation is great, but it's not always accessible to people. It's really expensive. It's there's a lot of bias in clinicians. Like, a lot of doctors will straight up invalidate you, and even like professionals that study this for years, a lot of them, they just don't have the information on how ADHD, autism even presents itself in women, let alone Black women. There haven't been studies, there have not been enough studies on women, Black women, girls, and how it presents in us, so how could they even identify it, even if you were to get a professional diagnosis? So of course, if you're able to, definitely encourage anyone that's able to go forward and do it. But I do want to like validate anyone that's listening right now. If you think you could, you know, you've been watching TikTok videos for like 2 years and you're like, oh my God, I relate to this, and like if you genuinely feel that way, then there must be a reason. Look into it, keep researching, and like also leverage those communities so that you can get the help you need. Yeah.
Thank you for that. First of all, you've mentioned how it wasn't super apparent to your parents because you were bringing in good grades. So was that most of your life you were able to mask it pretty well? Or was there a time where you couldn't anymore, and and people close to you were able to finally see the true you, in a sense, the not concealed version of you?
Yeah, I would say it got, so like you said before, like it got harder as I got older. That mask, the whole idea of like performing in a way that you know others expect of you. So like being the good girl, being good in school, not like swearing, not causing trouble or whatever. That got harder in high school, in social situations, when I was like, okay, I want friends. We all want friends. You want to go out. You want to go to have parties. And at school, I was really on all the time. I was very like sociable. I was dancing all the time. I was very hyper. And I'm not saying that that's not me, because it is when I'm comfortable, and I love dancing, I love music, but I was like that because I knew that Kayla is accepted. That Kayla people like, and also that Kayla like is confident and sure of herself, and she can navigate those situations with ease, and I'm not like being vulnerable. But when I would come home at the end of the day, I'm exhausted. Oh, yeah. I'm drained. As soon as I close my door, I'm like, I don't want to talk to anyone. Yeah. So my family, they didn't really see me masking very often. My family, they saw me at my, like, completely burnt out and just, like, tired. A lot of my fights within my family were just directly because I was masking all day, and I just couldn't take it anymore. My threshold, my tolerance was, like, super low.
I can super relate to that.
Yeah.
I can super relate to that. My whole life was masking.
Yeah.
My whole life has been masking. And I was telling Beck this morning, I was like, voluntarily, like, you're the first person ever, like, I haven't masked anything with, because it was the first time that I had a personal relationship with someone that I felt like was exactly like me. And I feel like even our symptoms are so widely similar, like the way that we hyper focus on shit, our sensitivity to rejection, our inability to do basic tasks, like we relate on so many levels. And I think that's why Beck was the first person I was able to release all of that. But before that, involuntarily, it was my mom. I was not able to mask it with her. And I think that was the most frustrating part, because I tried really hard, and she was the only one that was able to peep shit and point it out to me. And I remember growing up, I've like, being organized and keeping my space neat is something I've always struggled with since I was a kid, like always, to this day. And it was like this constant battle of like, clean your room. Your room is a mess right now. Clean your room is a mess. And I would never do it. I would never do it. She would beg. She would beg me. I would come home and she'd clean my room for me. And then she's like, this took me 3 hours. Like, why are you putting me through this? And I've never been in, and I'm a person, I talk a lot. The only times in my life I've been speechless was when she would ask me, why are you not doing it? Like, and I had nothing to say to her. Because I genuinely want to do it. Like, you think I want to sleep in this dirty ass room? Like, you think I want this for myself? Like, you think, and she would always ask me, is there something wrong? Like, is there something wrong? She was always the first to point it out. Is there something wrong? Is there something wrong? And I was like, I would feel so dumb in that moment, because this is a side that no one will ever, because if my friends are coming over, trust me, I'm going to clean this room.
Of course.
So you will never know. But my mom always knew, and she was always the one, is there something wrong with you? Like, is there anything wrong? And also with school as well. I've never been, I'm good at school when I love what I'm doing in school. So for me, French and English, very, very funny because I don't speak French anymore. But when I was in my Francophone bag, I was really good. Like, I was really, really good. I loved French. I would bring nothing less of a 90, but then everything else I would fail. Even arts, like, I failed everything. And because if I didn't care for it, I wouldn't work. Like, it won't work. I cannot sit here and do these, especially math. Like, I can't do that.
I forget math.
I can't do that. And I never shared my grades with anyone. I don't think anyone really at school knew that I was, like, doing so poorly, because I skipped a lot of the time anyways. But my mom knew, because the report cards and it was always like, what is it? Like, what is it? My mom put me in tutoring, summer school. There's nothing my mom hasn't done for me to, and it wasn't working. What is it? Like, it was, and I've almost adopted, and I think that's one of my ways of coping and also masking. I kind of adopted this persona of, I'm like the carefree girl. I'm like the I don't care, like, go with the flow. Like, in high school, that was my thing. Like, TT, you just come into school to look cute. Like, you're not even going to class. And I was like, yeah, fuck a class. Like, whatever. and I started to really own it. And it wasn't even intentional. It's just because it made me feel better to maybe trick myself into thinking that this is just my personality, rather than I cannot perform even if I wanted to. So let me just take that in. And to this day, I'm like, how much of my personality even to this day is really real, or how much of it is this front that I've put on, and I've just kind of made myself believe that that's really who I am, because I actually care. I'm not nonchalant. Like, I really care, and I really did care about my grades, and it did really make me sad to not pass my classes, but no one really could tell, because it was just like, yo, you chilling, like, you good with it. But then I go home and I'm having a breakdown, you know?
Yeah.
Ouais, non, c'est vraiment, everything is really relatable. I'm really happy about that. L'affaire que, comme, c'est plus dur de masquer, comme, at home que, genre, at school. À l'école, l'affaire avec moi, c'est comme, one thing about me, I'm gonna talk. And I have good perspective on everything, and good, comme, une bonne opinion. So, nobody think that I'm struggling with anything parce que je lève ma main, puis que je parle. If school was only des présentations orales,
I would have murdered.
I would have been like, I would have like every degree. Genre, I can't bullshit you to think that I'm saying something smart to come. I mean, mais si c'était pas ça, comme, je passais des nuits, genre, sur, comme, I was really trying, je passais des nuits sur, comme, à la cuisine, and like helping avec un problème de maths. Mon père est là, ma mère est là. They're talking. I'm just like,
bro, that's stress.
I'm just like, okay. Ils ont fini le programme, it's comme, did you get it?
No.
No, but thank you. It's done.
Johnny has 2 apples.
If Johnny has 2 fucking apples.
Shout out à mon père. Mon père était tellement patient. Genre, one thing about my father is gonna sit and like say like da, da, da. Ma mère était comme, okay, I don't have the patience. Mais elle aime tellement les maths que comme she would like get in like, c'est clair, c'est da, da, da. Je suis comme, okay, I guess. So ça c'était vraiment comme dur pour moi. Puis one thing, tu vois le hyper activité that like often people say that women don't have. I had it, mais c'est genre, it's only my family who knows. Like, nobody else knows parce que moi, la nuit, I woke up, je mets like, des écouteurs et je trottine, like I skip. But first of all, it's like I'm too old to skip first. I'm too old, like, skip, you skip. Mais j'ai besoin de comme dépenser l'énergie and then go back to sleep. Yo, mes parents sont comme, est-ce que t'es folle? Genre comme, on m'entend sauter puis ma mère est juste comme, what are you fucking doing? Mais c'est legit que comme j'ai des bursts, puis you don't even question. Moi je suis juste comme, I guess it's me. Like, j'ai brisé tellement de lits. Yeah, and I'm crying. Puis, en plus mon eyeliner, I can't. J'ai fait un peu plus I can't.
Moi j'ai mis rien. I was like, listen, if the...
It's interesting that you say that though, because like the hyperactivity that they say women don't have, it's also, I know for myself, it's like my hyperactivity it's internalized. It's my thoughts. My thoughts are they're never not spinning.
Yeah.
Like that's something that I noticed, especially since like starting medication, ADHD medication, is that like the first time I was like, wait, it's not like 5,000 different sounds at the same time, thoughts and ideas that are just swirling. Like I can actually, there's peace. And that's because that's something I'm not used to. Like my head, it's like my hyperactivity, it's the thoughts. So sometimes even talking is hard for me. It's not that I don't want to talk. I love talking, especially if it's about something I care about. But my thoughts, my mind is giving me like 7 thoughts, and I can only say one word at a time. And so then I'm skipping words, and I don't know how to express it because my mind is like a road runner, you know? So that's my hyperactivity. And a lot of women, we internalize it. And so it comes out as anxiety, like, you know, like you're biting your nails, or you're like, I don't know. Yeah, you're biting your nails, you're fidgeting, or you're doodling, you're like, you have all this pent up energy, but it's inside yourself because you can't release it because you have to be a good girl, or you can't start jumping around when you're an adult, like you're gonna look weird or whatever. But a lot of men or people who are socialized as males or as boys, they don't have that same experience because it's more socially accepted. It's more socially accepted. Not saying it's right, but for like to show that as like either anger or as like, you know, in the gym or like you know, fighting with the boys or something. I don't know. Like it's more socially acceptable for them to get it out in like a physical way. But for women, what are we supposed to do when we're hyper?
We just hold it in.
We keep it in, and that destroys us.
Mais tu vois par rapport à ce que tu dis qui est comme not getting your diagnosis or just not even knowing like what you have like put you in depression. Comme c'est ça qui arrive first, like you're just depressed. You get really anxious and depressed. Comme pendant longtemps, j'étais juste comme, OK, peut-être que je suis juste négligente. Genre, j'oublie toutes les affaires, And then, puis j'étais comme, mais au début, j'étais comme, I'm not anxious, like, because I don't care. And then I realized que comme, I just avoid a lot. Puis tout ce qui me stresse, I just avoid it. J'étais comme, maybe you have a little, like, anxiety. Fait qu'au début, I was like, maybe I'm just anxious, like, I'm anxious. Puis I remember parce que Titi m'a dit, like, Titi was like, I have ADHD. I was like, oh yeah. Puis elle m'expliquait tous les symptômes, and I'm like, oh, okay. I was like, I'm just anxious. mais quand je get into it, genre, j'étais juste comme, oh shit, maybe I do have ADHD as well. Mais quand tu parles à un professionnel, genre, tout ce que... No, you know, with the pandemic, everybody's depressed. Yeah, I know I've been depressed. That's not what I'm saying. Ouais, mais tu sais, comme, it's really, like maybe it's anxiety. Puis là, je suis genre comme... Fuck, like, I went through this, comme, j'ai déjà passé par toutes, genre, ces possibilités, so why are you, like, telling me again, genre je t'appelle for, like, a reason, until, like, I was completely dismissed, puis là, puis à un moment donné, j'étais juste comme, t'es déjà à terre, you made all this research, puis genre, t'as build up everything, puis là, tu call. First of all, it's really, just having them on the phone took me, like, 2 months, et c'est même pas parce que I didn't call, c'est parce que on a plus de place, rappelle le mois prochain, and you're fighting, when you get there, it's like, maybe you're not, you feel like you have to do it again, puis genre, j'avais même pas de force pour le faire, like, the first time. Là, tu me demandes de le faire encore, it's a lot, comme, it's a lot. Puis on dirait que they want you to, like, no, you have depression, bro, comme, and it's so, je trouve que c'est tellement bizarre, parce que I'm a black woman, I know you don't see that much black women in your office. Why would I, like, pourquoi je me serais déplacée to chat? And to be like, oh, yeah, maybe c'est vraiment, vraiment, vraiment frustrant.
It's also what makes you think it's because the criteria does not have us in mind. And that's why it's so hard for us even to see ourselves as having ADHD or something, because you're like, well, I don't check that box. Like, I'm not, I'm autistic, but like, I'm not Sheldon Cooper. Like,
Yeah.
I don't, I don't love trains. Like, it's like, because we only have this very like specific stereotypical view of these neurodivergent, like of ADHD, of autism, but it's not like, and that's all based on research that was done that did not have us in mind. It was done on white males.
Yeah.
So of course, when you go in for a diagnosis and they're like, well, do you like dates? Or like, do you break your toys? Do you like,
Yeah,
like,
and it's like,
of
no.
course we're not meeting that
Yeah.
because like your information that you're basing it on didn't even have me in mind. So like, that's also my frustration with the whole process is like, I wish people really, like professionals, really put more value on like someone telling you their lived experience, because
Yeah.
they've been living that life their whole lives. And like, if you really truly understand the diagnostic criteria, then you should be looking for other ways something might represent or express itself. Yeah.
I think, honestly, as growing up as Black women, we have been socialized to be hyper aware of our emotions. Therefore, we're able to hide it and control them better. But I think another reason why it's hard to get a diagnosis is because a lot of Black people haven't done that research yet or that work to even figure out that they have a diagnosis, that they need a diagnosis. Mental illness, mental health is still pretty taboo in the community, and there's also a lot of mistrust that we have with the medical system as well.
For sure.
I think that's my main reason why I haven't really sought professional help. I've, in my personal life, witnessed a lot of medical malpractice around Black people. And I have a really weird relationship when it comes to doctors and just medication in general. Like, it takes me a lot to even take a Tylenol. So I think that fear of mine of being put in the wrong hands and being told the wrong thing and then having to go through a process of taking the wrong meds that genuinely scares me. Like, I'm very much scared of anything that has to do with doctors or clinics and all of that. And I think that's also a very valid fear that a lot of Black people have.
100%. Yeah.
And I think that plays a big part in it. And when you were talking about your hyperactivity being internal, I 100% could relate. And I think one of the symptoms of ADHD that I relate to the most is emotional deregulation.
Yeah.
That my emotions are so all over the place, and being able to control them for it to be socially acceptable is the most draining thing, because I'm very sensitive. I'm too sensitive to any comment that someone can make. I'll take that so personally. Rejection sensitivity, right.
Yeah.
To the point where I'll do the rejecting to not have to.
Of course.
Face.
Protect yourself. Coping mechanism.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah, 100%. Rejection sensitivity, major.
Yeah.
Major. I also have a lot of issues with like my impulse and being angry very fast. And when we were talking about masking, I'm not able to mask that with my mom, and she's the one, and I feel so bad for her sometimes, because I'm like, you get the worst version of me. That's what I like. That's what I think when I look at. I'm like, you get the worst version of me, and I see it, and that's what I want to avoid in my everyday life. But it becomes so exhausting to have to pretend like I'm not extremely angry at something that's not worth being angry, and having to calm myself in that moment for that person to not notice. And
it's mental
sometimes
gymnastics.
Sometimes I be slipping, and then it comes off as like, what the hell, like where did that come from? Like, I think a few days ago I never did that before. For the first time, like, I blew up my nigga's phone. Like, I blew his phone up, and I just woke up, and I just snapped, and there wasn't a particular reason for it. And I've never been so embarrassed when he called, and he was like, so what just happened right now? Like, what? And I was just, can we just please change the topic? like it's it came out. Like it just came out. Like I don't know what to tell you.
I do want to offer a reframe, because you said that, you know, you feel bad for your mom sometimes, that like she sees the worst version of you. I do want to like suggest something. Like maybe I don't think necessarily she's seeing the worst version of you. It's that she's one of the few people that you trust enough to be your complete authentic self around. And so even if it scares you, those natural reactions, it's like that's a signification of like you really trust and feel safe enough with your mom, and you don't feel that way with a lot of other people. So like, yes, it's hard to control these emotions, and like, you know, we struggle with a lot of things and we get really down on ourselves about them, but it's like that's who we are. And it's so important to have more people in our lives and more communities and safe spaces where we're able to be ourselves. Like if I'm gonna blow up your phone, like I'm gonna blow up your phone, and that's me. Like you're gonna love me as I am, who I am, not the me that I'm trying to perfectly like present to you, because that's not even authentic. So it's like, I know it's frustrating, but it's like it's actually the best version of yourself, and it's beautiful that your mom like makes you feel that way, feel safe enough to be yourself. I didn't want to make you cry, I'm sorry. I just want you to know that, like, really, it's not the worst version. That's who you are, and you're perfect as you are.
Oh, thank you, Kayla. I knew I was gonna cry.
It's okay. There's nothing wrong with crying, though. There's nothing wrong with crying.
Mais tu sais, avec pour l'hypersensibilité, I think that's the thing that une des affaires que je relate the most, because I've always been a crybaby. Et comme je pleurais toujours à la maison, but like mes parents at some point they were like, do you cry as much like in the world? And I was like, no,
I never cry. No one.
Me too.
No one sees me cry. Like
c'est comme si t'es pas vraiment proche de moi, you don't know that I cry. Genre, en plus avec le podcast, il y a plein de gens qui me rencontrent. À chaque fois que je dis I'm a crybaby, je suis comme, you're a crybaby, like
same.
From, like where? Puis je suis comme, je pleure tout le temps. Puis c'est à some point, mon père était comme, you cannot cry. Il m'a dit genre, can you? Et comme tu pourras pas, genre, if you can make a point without crying, I cannot. I cannot. Puis c'est pour ça que comme quand j'ai eu mon diagnostic, puis la neuropsychologiste était comme, oh yeah, and also your emotion, comme ça aussi, tu sais, c'est influencé par comme you're having ADHD. C'est tellement like, oh my god, c'est la première fois que comme j'ai genre une validation autre que comme Titi and also Jess just really been like there for me, like there for me. Puis à chaque fois que je pleure, elle est comme c'est correct, genre. And c'est pour ça que rendu que quand elle m'a demandé what do you want to do, like est-ce que tu veux like get meds et tout, blah, blah. I was like yes, give me the drugs. Puis elle m'a dit genre OK. Genre je vais écrire le fait comme le papier qui dit que comme you have ADHD, because elle a dit you've been like trying for so long, like c'est la première fois comme tu sais comme elle est comme you've been struggling, like you deserve like a rest.
Yeah.
Puis j'étais comme c'est la première fois que comme on me dit que comme I deserve to rest. Puis quand on te dit que comme t'es négligente, you're lazy, puis tu comme but I'm literally not resting.
Yeah.
Puis avoir une personne qui me dit you've been like, c'est long là, comme 26 ans, like you've been like alone in this, you deserve to like be able to have like access to meds, comme
the validation, just having someone validate those emotions, and like you said, yeah, it's like we've been coping as best as we could our whole lives. Like why would we not accept help? Why would, like, we deserve it just as much as everyone else. We deserve to be able to do things just as easily or in the ways that other people do. And like as a Black woman, like where can we cry in public? Where?
Yeah.
Nowhere. So like it's because we're expected to be like resilient and strong and like have our shit together and just be like carefree and like totally confident and fine all the time. But like no, we're humans. We're humans, and we also have to like remind ourselves of that too. Like it's okay to cry. It's okay to have a range of emotions. It's okay to ask for help. as well. That's like a big thing that I am still learning. It's okay to ask for help. Like we put so much on ourselves.
Sensitivity.
Exactly, because why would I depend on someone else when they could like disappoint me? Why would I give anyone the opportunity to disappoint me? Because when I get disappointed, that feeling hurts so much, and I want to avoid that. You want to protect yourself, but like at a certain point, we have to realize like we need to depend on other people to thrive. And so it's okay to ask for help. It's like having that balance, but it's so hard.
I think the thing with asking for help and why it's so hard is because I don't think people grasp how much help I actually need. Mm-hmm. I think that's the thing. It's like I'm not asking for like I need a lot of help, and I think that's where especially when you go your whole life with masking, with people assuming that you have your shit together, because I know that people that know me well think I have my shit together. So I can't even imagine what a stranger might think. Yeah. So it's having to ask for help is also having to admit that all of this shit is fake.
Of course, it's that process of unmasking. So exactly, like you said, it's how could people like believe or understand that you need help if you're not showing them the ways in which you are struggling. It's that whole like consciously unmasking with people. And I think that's a part of the process after I got my diagnosis even. It's not like just you get diagnosis, you get meds, you're like, haha, yeah, I have the key to life and I'm great. Like, no, it's like you've still been living your whole life coping in the way that you have, and you've internalized all of these messages. Like I don't know exactly the numbers, but I saw some statistic about how like ADHD kids receive, I think it was like 20 times as much, but like more criticisms than their peers before the age of 16. So like going through school, we receive like so much more criticism, like you know, we're lazy, we're like forgetful, you're a crybaby, all these messages. We receive them so much more than our neurotypical peers. So of course we've internalized that. So for years you've internalized this. You genuinely believe these things about yourself. So even if you have that validation and you have that medication, like you still have to do that process within yourself to be like, no, I'm not lazy. Like I need rest, or this is not like how can I accommodate myself in this moment? Because you've gone through so many years like, okay, I have to suck it up. I have to just do it. I'm being a crybaby. I have to just do it. Like, no. And every time that you are doing that, you're not honoring yourself. And that takes time. So that's also a part of that, like unmasking and allowing people to help you and believing that you deserve it.
Yeah. Do you view you being neurodivergent, do you view it as a mental illness, or do you feel like you're forced to say that it's a mental illness under the system that we live in?
So I'd say, well, it depends, because I'd say I'm autistic and I have ADHD. Those are not mental illnesses to me. They're just neurotypes. It's just like my brain. It's like apples and oranges. I just have a autistic ADHD brain. But my depression, my anxiety, all of the results of my trauma, all of that, that's mental illness for sure. I am mentally ill, that's for sure. And I don't think that's just because of capitalism, because I think if capitalism was removed, I'd still be autistic. I'd still have ADHD. My brain would still, I'd still process information. I'd still be who I am. But I think maybe the stress or the levels, like the struggles that I have would be reduced or would be different, because of course I wouldn't have to force myself to work for money, for shelter, for food. So like I don't see my neurodiversity as a mental illness, but I do have mental illness as a result of of growing up with my neurodiversity in the world that we live in. Like I do have that depression that is a mental illness. That is literally something that I struggle with a lot. But my autism, my ADHD, it's just who I am and how I navigate the world. Yes, it's annoying sometimes. Yes, like I have internal conflict sometimes, but that's also a part of the process that I'm like just kind of like accepting in myself. But the depression, the anxiety, I don't like them. They're mental illnesses. They make me sad, but it's just like a result of the world that we live in. It's capitalism. Like, it sucks, but it's kind of like, it is. Those are mental illnesses. So that's kind of the differentiation. I just wanted to like make that clear. It's like, I don't see ADHD as a mental illness at all. What about you, Beck?
Non, c'est bon. Je voulais comme, c'est vraiment bien expliqué parce que c'est comme, je voulais avoir la distinction, because we said it at the beginning. Like it's literally disorder. Like à la fin, like, it's a disorder. Puis quand les gens en parlent, c'est comme disorder. Là, je suis comme, wow, ok, I get it. I have a disorder. Mais je trouve que la façon dont tu l'as expliqué, c'est vraiment bien. Puis surtout que, tu sais, l'anxiété puis la dépression, je trouve que c'est quelque chose qui is talked a lot, but not maybe really talked about. Comme genre, I'm anxious, I'm depressed. Like, qu'est-ce que comme ça signifie, puis on met pas nécessairement le point genre dessus.
Ouais.
Juste que, tu sais, comme tu disais, comme quand on veut, quand tu vas pour que tu chercher de l'aide et tout. Oh, you said it in the car. Quand tu vas chercher de l'aide et tout, genre le but du docteur, like why it's so hard, c'est genre, do you disturb everyone? Like, est-ce que c'est genre, est-ce que c'est just to yourself or like c'est everyone? Parce que si c'est juste toi, but you still being able to go to work, like aller à l'école, c'est comme, you have no problem. Je me souviens quand j'ai commencé à like, me questionner, genre, something is wrong with me, puis j'allais voir les psychologues de genre de Concordia, because they offer you that. Puis genre, je leur expliquais, je suis comme, je vais pas à mes cours, comme j'ai vraiment de la difficulté, comme un truc. Mais again, the same thing with the interview thing, I'm really good with people. Genre, je parle aux gens, puis c'est comme, c'est comme, là, à la fin, ils sont comme, you have no problem, just go see, je suis comme, oh my God.
Yeah.
I'm already overwhelmed.
I'm not about to make 5 phone calls, go to this office, go fill out
just
forms.
go see the counsellor, and then change programs, and then je suis comme,
Nah,
now I'm overwhelmed. This was même quand j'avais l'impression que comme il me comprenait à la fin quand il me disait ça, j'ai comme absolument rien compris because I cannot do that.
Yeah.
Je peux pas aller comme chercher comme tu sais de l'aide et tout. Fait que je trouve que faire la c'est vraiment comme ça qu'on te reçoit quand tu vas chercher de l'aide, c'est juste comme OK, are you comme est-ce que je peux voir que comme you're disturbing, mais si justement if you mask so well.
C'est ça. Ouais.
Basically, I feel like
That's what it is.
They're saying if you mask so well, just keep masking. Just keep
Yes.
doing what you're doing. Peu importe comment toi tu le reçois.
Because it's in their best interest for us to keep masking, because then we're producing and we're making money and we're like little cogs in the capitalist machine, you know? And like that's what I was saying in the car, because it's true. It's like, is it like mental illness and also neurodiversity? It's just like, is it a problem to just you, or is it a problem to your mom and your teachers and your neighbors, and like, are you costing people money? Like, you know, like that's the real issue. If it's just you and you're depressed and like, you know, and like and I'm talking super depressed and anxious and like really like having a hard time, like that's a you problem. We don't care as a society. This is society talking, you know? It's like they don't care. But if you're bothering other people, if it's really affecting other people and your ability to prove your worth in capitalism standards, then it's a problem. And so it kind of just leaves you like for dead in a way, you know, because it's like if you're able to mask and you're able to keep working and producing, you're not going to get that much support. You're not going to get treatment at all, because people are like, well, you're able to do it, but then inside you're suffering. At what cost are you able to, you know?
It eats up at you at some point, and I think that's that happens as you grow older.
Yeah.
And I've definitely felt that within the last few years. I feel like I haven't truly even been happy for the last like 3-4 years. But like Beck said, when you go into these situations, you mask so well that it's as if, like, for me, I don't even think it's necessarily my ADHD that bothers me. It's the way that it makes me feel. Like, it's the way that it's the effects of it, the way that it makes me feel, and the way that I see me not fitting in the world.
Yeah.
That's more so what bothers me.
For sure.
Than anything else. Feeling like you're disappointing others. I felt like that feeling of disappointing. I in school, I got along with a lot of my professors, and it was to the point where my like last semester before stopping, I would not speak to any professor or anything because I was like, I don't even want you to like me, because if you like me, you're gonna want to see me do good, but I can't do good.
Yeah.
And I'm sick of disappointing all these professors all the time.
Et t'envoies des emails,
T'envoies des emails.
Where are you?
Can you stay after the class? Like
Yeah.
you participate, you're so articulate, you're so this. Why are you not handing in the assignments? Because I'm not able to. And I wish I was, and I've spent so many times looking at like the clock strike 12 and I still haven't sent it, and the way that makes me feel is way worse than anything else. Like the way that I feel after that, the way that I'm like, there are times where I've forgotten that there was an exam and I walk in and I'm like, what's going on? And it's an exam, and okay, then let me just figure it out, and then I fail, and the teacher hits me up, and I've had teachers pass me even though I failed because they believed in me so much, and then I feel so crappy because the next semester I don't do any better. And it's that part that it's the disappointment, it's the feeling like
The shame.
it's feels
the
so
guilt, the shame, the guilt.
so
Yeah.
ashamed, so ashamed, and but because you mask it so well, it's not looked at as like, is there something wrong for you not handing in the assignments? It's like, come on, do the assignment, like it's like, do the assignment, like you're so good, and they make it seem as if it's possible, and I'm in that meeting and I'm like, yeah, okay, and then I go home and I can't do it, and then I start to feel really shitty about myself because I can't do it. And I think as an adult, when you start facing real adult problems, that feeling of I suck is
Go up.
Yeah,
goes
it's
up,
multiplied.
and it's like you can't get away from it, and then you're just like, okay, I just want to sulk and not do anything. And then that is not more pleasant because you're just sitting thinking about all the things you could have been doing if you weren't sitting in bed.
Yeah.
And it becomes to the point where I'm literally to the point where even watching a series for me is exhausting, and I can't even finish it. I'm like, well, you can't even have fun, bitch. Like, well, you can't do anything. Like,
Yeah.
it's a lot. And I was having a conversation with someone one time, and someone I deeply care about, and they were venting to me about someone, and they were like, ugh, I can't deal. That person is so all over the place. They're so unorganized, and they're so. And I was like, yeah, okay, you'll never see that.
Yeah, exactly. It's like, okay, I can't be honest with you.
Yeah, I was like, shit, okay, so then I guess I'll never, because everything that they were describing about, and they were like, this, if there's one thing I could change about that person, it would be this. And I was like, okay, got it.
Of course. And we get those messages also from society. It's
all
like
the
from our
time.
loved ones, from our family,
All
but
the
also it's
time.
just like in society, it's like, you know, this is a person that has their shit together, and this is a person that's a mess. You see these messages all the time, and so exactly, we're internalizing it. It's the shame and the guilt. That's like a really, really hard part to get over, because like even if you get diagnosed and all that, you're still like, well, I'm letting people down.
I'm
still
letting people
not
down
able to do
all
things.
the time. I feel like I'm letting my family down all the time. Like they have all of these plans for me and my schooling and for me to do this, and I'm just like, you're lucky I made my bed this morning. But you don't but you don't see that. Like, they don't see that.
But that's it.
They see someone that's not doing anything, and it's gotten to the point where I've like tried my best to avoid my mom in the house, just to avoid the like what's going on with school conversation, because I can't bear to disappoint you after all the shit that we've been through with my schooling since I was a kid. Like, my mom worked her ass off for me. Like, she got me all these tutors and all these, like, I can't even begin to say how much my mom has worked. So having to face her now and like nothing has changed, like I'm at the same place you left me, you feel worthless.
That's what's great about like having people like you and like people that understand you, or just being with Titi, genre c'est que comme tu te sens tellement validé, you feel so less odd, juste comme on n'a pas envie, on le fait pas, and it's the end of the conversation. Puis c'est drôle parce que as like whatever like became bigger, I saw people having so much more expectation for us. C'est comme, vous allez être international.
We're like, yo, we have like 10 unread emails.
Comme, listen, like, nos emails, on va pas les répondre aujourd'hui puis pas demain. I never, c'est pour ça que comme le whole hustle culture puis et tout, puis c'est comme, ce qu'on fait va tellement, like, the way we are go so much against like all the like algorithm, post every day, do that to be like that, puis on est vraiment comme, I get it, I truly get it. Puis à un moment donné, on avait quelqu'un d'autre qui nous aidait, puis ça a actually pas fonctionné parce que she asked for too much, puis on est comme, we're not posting every day, we're not doing that, Puis c'est comme, I'm so happy que comme on s'est trouvé parce que, to be honest, genre, j'aurais pas pu faire ça avec
With
personne.
anybody else.
Des fois, on passe weeks, like, just talking and not mentioning whatsoever. Puis les gens sont comme, c'est comme, vous listen l'épisode. My sister is like, girl, like, ça me tente pas de comme, listen l'épisode. We're working on it.
Yeah.
It's like at your own rules, though. And
Ouais,
that's,
but it's good to feel like we understand each other, but at the same time, I can't help but to feel like I'm failing even at the podcast. C'est parce que pour de vrai, Beck, like, if we were neurotypical, I feel like the podcast would be on another level.
Ouais,
like
maybe.
It would probably be on another.
You think?
We've fumbled bags because we didn't answer emails. Like, we've missed out on great opportunities because we didn't answer emails.
But I think, no.
Yeah,
Sean is
exactly.
You know what? Parce que notre content is great. And I
It
think
is.
if we were neurotypical, on n'aurait pas ce content-là.
Okay,
That's
true.
it.
Okay,
That's
that's
what
true.
I was
That's
gonna
true.
say.
That's true.
That's
That's
true.
true. Okay,
You would
that's
not be
true.
saying or
That's
having
true.
those views.
That's
or,
true.
Exactly.
That's
Parce
true.
que I think
That's
this
true. That's true.
hypersensibility,
That's true.
comme le fait que comme we care puis que comme we want to understand different perspectives, ça fait que comme les gens qu'on invite on our podcast, c'est pas des gens qui necessarily have a name in Montreal, it's not rappers, it's not artists. Le nombre de personnes qui sont venues nous hit up, je suis une artiste, j'aimerais... Mais from the get-go, on était comme, this is not the vision, this is not what we want. Puis ça fait que le content est vraiment exceptionnel. Et j'ai besoin que les gens comprennent que pour créer ce content exceptionnel, it takes time. Genre, je peux pas juste, when we do an episode, on se lève, genre à 4h du matin, on est like, okay, puis on a des quotes, puis on lit, puis on est toujours en train de like, consommer ça, because it's fun to us. Genre, on aime ça, genre la recherche, I think it's one of the best parts to like do an episode.
And everything else is the worst part.
Ouais.
Oh, yeah.
It's like research. Now I feel great.
I feel amazing, but then watch there be a DM, and then I'm a freak out. And like it's crazy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, that's what I was gonna say before. I'm like, I don't think it'd be better if you're neurotypical, because the whole reason that this podcast is what it is. It's because you are who you are. Like, and that's the whole like idea of like actively choosing to like accept yourself as you are, because like the idea that you might have thought like, oh, I used to think this way in school. I'd be like, oh, I would be such a better student, or I'd be more successful in my career if I was neurotypical and I didn't have to struggle with all these things. Like, maybe, I don't know, but would I have even chosen the same major? Would I have even had the same friends? Would I even have like the same interests? Like, I don't know, because it is who I am. It's like it informs everything about who you are, your personality, the way you behave, like every single thing. So I really don't, and I think that's just society putting that in your head, being like, well, if I was neurotypical, I'd have like three different businesses by now or something.
I be thinking that all the time, and I hate that I think of that with the podcast, because honestly, and I'm gonna cry again, but honestly, this podcast is like the first time in a long time that like I felt like I have like a real purpose, because, and we talk about this all the time, because I constantly like start something and I don't finish it, and I hyper focus on something and I don't finish it, and it's like, what is my thing? Like, everyone has a thing. Like, what is my thing? Like, what am I able to excel at for longer than like 5 minutes? Like, what am I able to actually, because I've started so many things that I haven't finished, and I talk about it and I'm like, I'm doing this, and I don't finish it, and I don't complete it, and I fail, and I have to, and like, this podcast is the first time where I felt like I was being seen and I was me. I'm 100% myself on this podcast, and I'm doing something that I love with someone that I love, and it's just it's the first time that I really feel like, okay, this is me, like this is my zone, like this, I'm in my zone right now, like I'm killing it, and I'm good, and I'm excelling. But then I know that there's a lot of things that I have that I haven't been able to do, like little things related to the podcast where I feel like, fuck, like I'm letting the team down. And then, because we have another member, Fab, that like, shout out to Fab, because I don't even know how he does it to work with us, because he be sending us messages and we don't be answering. We just be like in our own world. And I think, and you know what, je t'ai pas dit ça en passant, like when you got your diagnosis, you know, I cried tears of joy with you. Like I was so happy, like, because I was like, okay, finally, because we started this process together. I was like, she got it, like she fucking got it. Finally, she's validated. I cried. I was so happy for you, and I'm still so happy for you. But there's a part of me that was like, and I don't know if that's gonna sound like fucked up, but there's a part of me that was like, okay, so now she's gonna be better. So now I'm gonna be like the one that's like holding us back, you know, because I feel like we both quote unquote slack when it comes to certain work, like answering emails, answering DMs, like being like with our content, like being super on top of our shit and posting and all of that. We both are not the best at that, but I'm like, now it's just gonna be me that's gonna suck at that. And I'm like, I really like, I've been in partnerships where I've held the other person back and I've disappointed the other person. Like, you know, I had Black Montreal businesses that I started and I had to drop out of because my partner, I love her. She's one of my close friends, but she's so on her game and I wasn't able to keep up with her. And I felt like I was just bringing everyone down. So I was like, you know what, I'm going to step away. And I'm just like, I really hope that doesn't happen now. And I'm like, I really just hope I'm not going to be like, you know.
So, like, at some point, you tweeted something about, like, genre, oh, I had a dream that, like, y'all were asking Beck to break up with me.
Yes, I remember that.
Like, what? Like, oh my God, I know how GT and, like, Kayla felt, but, like, I'm like, the city girls felt now. Let's come. What are you even talking about? Like, I think, je pense que l'affaire, c'est que you don't know how great you are, pour vrai, genre. You really don't know how great you are. Puis moi, ça me dérange pas de, like, for the rest of my life, if I have to, like, remind you, like, you're great. I'm gonna do it. Genre, y a des affaires qui se passent avec Coco, whatever, genre. You know, like, the thread that we're doing, like, quand on essaie de faire, genre, des threads on IG and Twitter, quand on essaie de faire des threads, puis de sujets spécifiques, informatifs, like, Titi started that, like, on the spot. Like, she just made a thread, puis genre là, elle a mis sur... And I think we gained, like, 1,000 followers just from the thread. Puis c'est genre... she's so great at so many things. Puis I feel like we relate so much on genre not answering email, not just resting. I feel like all I want for you, it's to rest. I want you to be able to rest. I want you to be, like, able to, like, count on me. Puis c'est genre, see, if it's that, I think it's great. Puis une autre affaire que I think je me suis comme rendu compte, je suis comme, it's okay for things to end. There's nothing wrong for things to have an end. Ça veut pas dire que you fail, ça veut dire que you try, it was not for you, and you skip. C'est juste que genre, we live vraiment dans une société où c'est comme, you have to start to fit, for what? Like, si ça me tente pas, if I don't feel good, like, it can end. Puis genre, you know how I feel about the podcast, comme Titi qui m'a approché, like, oh, we should start a podcast et tout, and it saved my life. You know, I was at the point que comme, I was depressed, je savais pas comme what was wrong with me, j'allais plus à l'école, j'allais plus travailler, je mangeais plus. My mom was like, what are you doing with your life? I remember my room was messy. Puis chaque jour, j'étais comme, if I can only do my room, like, if I can only, like, do that one specific thing, genre, je pourrais, like, from there I could go up. J'ai jamais pu, like, ranger cette chambre. Until this day, quand je vois des Snapchats de my old room, I have PTSD because I remember I was so depressed at that time. Mais c'est comme, it's comme when we started the podcast, c'est vraiment là que j'étais comme, I'm doing something. Like, I'm doing something valuable. I'm doing with someone I love. Fait que j'ai toujours été comme, oh, like, Titi, you saved my life. Like the day that you decided to come, I'm going to contact you back. So, y a pas de genre, I'm going to be, like, I'm going to, like, if you ever get a diagnosis, it's going to be great. And if you never do it, it's still going to be great. Like, it's still going to be valid. It's still going to be, je sais comment on est, je sais comme we, like, je pense pas que les meds vont me faire plus répondre au verbe, maybe. Ça veut juste dire qu'on va plus avoir un bag, mais it's not.
That's it. Yeah, like your medication's not gonna make back be a neurotypical. That's the thing.
Speaking of medication, thank you, sis. I love you so
I
much.
love you.
Speaking of medication, what is your relationship with your meds?
Yes, my relationship with my meds.
Are you grateful for them? Do you hate them?
I am. I really like the meds that I am taking right now. They help me get through the day, especially at work. But I would say it's still medication. And with all medication, there are side effects. So there's some parts of it that I don't really like. I've struggled with insomnia most of my life, since high school. And something about the meds is if I don't take them early enough, it is hard to fall asleep. So that's like a part of it that's kind of annoying. But there's way more positives than like negatives. Like I'm able to get through my work day, like multitask and like get through all the job tasks with less resistance than I could before. Before I was like, I had to psych myself up for like literally to answer one email, or else I'd be like trying to write one email like half my shift, you know, and then it's like, Kayla, what are you doing? So my meds really do help me to like get through the task, and that helps my mood as well, because I'm like, at the end of the day, I'm not like, okay, I did nothing today and like I'm gonna get fired tomorrow, and I'm not like, I don't have all those anxious thoughts, because we're really hard on ourselves just in general, especially like kind of like what you were saying earlier, just kind of feeling like, you know, maybe like you're not good enough, or like you can't produce like to other people's standards. It's like we all have that voice in our heads that is telling us like we're not doing enough. And so I find like the energy that the medication does give me more energy and like less resistance to get through all the tasks, so that makes me feel better about myself at the end of the day. So that's like one of the biggest like positives of being on medication now. I'm like, okay, cool, like I did things, I like showered and I like got dressed and I got through work and I like made supper for myself, and I didn't like have too many moments where I was like standing around like a sim with no actions, because I do that. I'm sorry. Yeah, ADHD people know, because like the ability to switch between tasks, that is an executive function that a lot of us struggle with. Like I come out the shower and then 30 minutes I have to be I'm in my towel, just like on the floor, just like either scrolling on my phone or just like vibing, because my brain's like, I need time to think about the next task I want to do. And so then I'm not like wasting like 30-minute chunks of my day, which I do if I'm not on my meds. So that's like the biggest like thing I'm grateful for about my medication. But it's, at the end of the day, it's not like a cure-all. It's not like it's not like I don't still struggle with some things. It's not like I'm magically neurotypical when meds are ingested. Like, no. It's not like a magic fix, but it does make navigating this world easier than it was before. And why not make it easier? I've been going through most of my life just raw dogging reality, so it definitely has been good for me.
Do you feel less like yourself? Premièrement, j'ai tellement hâte de start mes meds. To be honest, genre, j'ai jamais été aussi comme excitée pour quelque chose. Avec my mom, genre, quand j'ai eu mon diagnostic, j'en ai parlé à ma mère était comme, okay, what do you want to do? J'ai comme, drugs. Et elle est juste comme, are you, like, il n'y a pas de, like, the more natural way? Parce que it's really stressed her out, elle est comme, like, you gonna take them for the rest of your life? Like, maybe, comme t'es, but I really don't care, parce que c'est comme, je veux vraiment avoir l'habilité de comme, I don't know, do things.
Do things. That's the only way I can express it as well. I'm like, I can do things.
Yeah.
That's all I can say. Yeah.
Fait que je voulais vraiment, fait que j'ai comme 1500 questions, mais je voulais vraiment savoir si, parce que je sais qu'il y a des gens qui aiment pas les meds, so comme I don't really feel like myself when I have my meds, like it's off. So do you feel like that?
So not at all. I've been on other medications. So like I said, I've struggled with different mental illnesses throughout my life. So like I've been on like antidepressants, anxiety like I've been on other medication where I have felt like I don't feel like myself, where I have had that sensation like I feel like a robot all day. I've been on medication where I felt that way, and my ADHD meds do not make me feel at all. I'm still myself. Like I'm still like I want to do headstands all the time. I'm still very much myself. It's just that the biggest thing is I have less instances of those negative thought patterns repeating themselves, being like, oh my God, just get up, just go shower. It's been 5 minutes. Oh my God, go do it. Go. I know you can relate to like giving yourself a pep talk to do something.
In 5
right?
minutes, you go.
Okay.
At 6, I'll do it. Then at 6:02, and you're like, fine, I'll
exactly.
at 7.
So it's like medication. I don't have that, and so like that part of myself is not there. But it's not a great part of myself. It's my anxious voice. It's like so like I'm very much still myself on my ADHD meds. I just think it makes me a bit more of like a polished version of myself. Maybe I don't feel like a robot. I don't feel like 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 for me when I drink alcohol when I'm drunk, it's like I've lost control of all of myself. Like maybe my limbs, I'm not really in control 100% because I'm like intoxicated. Like I might say something I didn't really mean to, or I might like knock something down. I don't feel like that when I'm on my meds. I'm not like drunk. I'm not like out of control, like tripping. No, not at all. Like I'm very much aware of what I'm doing. It's just that I'm doing it with ease. And that's my biggest, like the biggest thing. So yeah, it's not robotic. I definitely feel like myself, but everyone's different and it depends like the medication you're on, the dosage and all of that.
Okay. I think ce que je voulais adresser, puis I think that's really an open discussion, c'est how like having undiagnosed ou juste aucunement les ressources pour genre like get a diagnosis, les ressources juste pour get a mental like help, like when it comes to like mental health, genre how it affects like the Black community, like Black kids, Black teen et tout, parce que j'ai vu first of all, we already know, on a fait un épisode on defund the police and we talked about how la police, like I think 70% of people that they're like arrest and 70% of people that they killed had a mental illness of some sort. Puis on sait que we talked about it a lot. C'est rare que comme as a Black kid, ils sont comme something is wrong. Maybe what's going on. C'est vraiment rare qu'on prenne le temps de faire ça avec toi.
Ouais.
Puis j'ai vu so I came across an article qui parlait d'une petite fille qui s'appelle Grace qui avait 15 ans at the time in 2020 and she was put in prison because she didn't do her homework. Fait que dans le fond, c'était une enfant qui était déjà comme on probation parce qu'elle avait des problèmes de comportement et tout. So une des choses qu'elle devait faire, c'est like do like her homework, like faire ses devoirs. But when her school switched to remote, fait quand c'est devenu genre école à la maison, she really had like less motivation. Puis she just stopped doing them, and she was sent like in prison like for like a moment.
Ouais.
Fait que c'est vraiment genre, I think it's just an intersection, like being Black and like having like mental illness, having a disability. C'est pas juste, it's not just like, tu sais comme tu avais dit plus tôt, like some people they do that a lot on TikTok, like white people, like it's my superpower, my superpower, but it's like Black people reason. Like c'est vraiment genre être pas diagnostiqué, pas avoir les ressources, puis
it's a thing. It's called misdiagnosis to prison pipeline. Like it's a thing.
Yeah. Of course, and it's been a thing. It's been a thing. Like I know if you look into it, like a lot of Black people, especially men, are diagnosed with schizophrenia.
Yes.
And they don't have schizophrenia.
Yes.
It's just like, you're a Black man and you're telling me that the government's after you and police, you can't trust police, which is totally valid. But like especially historically, it's like, oh no, I'm gonna write you off. You have schizophrenia, you're bipolar, you're going into a mental facility because like a lot of these diagnoses have been used to as a weapon against the Black community.
Right.
And so I do understand like the mistrust, I guess you were saying a bit earlier, like the mistrust of doctors, of just like seeking help for mental illness, and especially, and also like in our community we do have a lot of work to do when it comes to like ableism as well. Because of the ways in which like these diagnoses have been weaponized against us, and like we're definitely invalidated all the time. Like we don't have that same like professionals and police officers do not extend the same compassion that they would for white kids that are acting out, or that are I say acting out, but that are like in public just expressing their natural selves, or if they're in crisis, if they're looking for help, they don't extend the same compassion to us. So of course, for us, it's harder for us to get diagnosed, for one, because we're not taken seriously. And then it's also harder for us to even get support and treatment because of bias, like racial bias. A lot of clinicians will be like, well, like, you're like I know a lot of clinicians don't believe that like Black people can feel physical pain the same way that white people can. So of course that would extend to mental and emotional pain. And when we're talking about our traumas and microaggressions, is that validated and understood at the same? Right. It's not. So there's all of the intersection between being Black and neurodivergent is huge, because it's not the same. It's not going to be the same path for us to get a diagnosis, and even if we do, we're not going to be received the same way at all. Not at all. Yeah. It's really hard. And also, like, I think going back, we were kind of talking about like resources or like treatments. Like for a lot of people that had like an early diagnosis, they would have gotten in elementary school, right? And usually it would have been like, you know, Tommy's teacher noticed that he was rambunctious in class, so told his mom, and they went to get assessed. But then if that's a little Black boy or Black girl making trouble or showing stereotypical signs of ADHD or autism, is a teacher going to recognize that as, oh, maybe they have ADHD? Or is the teacher going to recognize that as, she has an attitude problem, she's really rude, or he's really violent and aggressive, he's defiant, he has oppositional defiance disorder, he's like just a bad kid and he should be punished? Like the ways that like all of these people in authority in our lives like view us because of race, like will definitely impact like your ability to get that diagnosis or to even get treatment. So that's why a lot of us go undiagnosed. It's like for a lot of those different factors.
Yeah, especially the preconceived notions about race that a lot of people have. You're defiant, you're not someone that needs assistance. And I think that's what I went through when I was a kid in school, because I went to a predominantly white school, and I knew of kids in my class that had ADHD that were way less out there than I was. Really, I was a mess. Like I was a mess, and I just wish it would have been taken seriously rather than just, you're defiant, you're a little disobedient little girl. It's like, no, like let's deconstruct why, like throughout my whole schooling, like if we just focus on elementary school from kindergarten to 6th grade, all the teachers have the same complaints. Y'all, like, it's like there's not one person that wanted to be like, okay, is there anything wrong? And I feel like misdiagnosis as well, another way that it affects us is because regular things like getting a job and all of that are already obstacles for people of color, for Black people. They're already obstacles. It's already something that does not come as smoothly as our counterpart. Add an undiagnosed ADHD on top of that, it makes it near impossible.
Exactly.
Puis aussi, dites-moi si je me trompe, mais quand quelqu'un notice as a kid, like, oh, maybe they have like a ADHD, autism or whatever, me semble que is it free to get diagnosed as a kid?
I believe in Canada, I believe it is.
Parce que I think, quand je regardais justement, like, when I was researching, c'est comme 0 à 17 ans, like, you can just get a diagnosis.
Through school.
And puis pas comme payer rien, but then, when you're an adult, 1,500, 2,500, like, tu vois ce prix-là, t'es juste comme, oh,
okay. But why do you think that is? Think about it. Why do you think that is? Like, that, why would it be free when you're in school, but then when you're an adult, if you're still struggling, then now you have to pay for it? Like, for me, I feel like it's truly because, like, I mean, you have to go to school, right? Everyone has to go to school. You have to, like, because school it's almost like I don't know, it's like practice for for working full-time job. So it's like capitalist training wheels. So I feel like they want to identify it, or it, I don't know. To me, it feels like it's like they're trying to identify like who's the most productive and who's the least productive for really young, you know? Because it's like, if you can't handle the structure of school, you will not handle the structures of like corporate world or like working
Yeah.
and it's a shame that like it's a shame that when you're an adult, like if you're able to mask, like we were talking about, even if you don't have ADHD, Black women are still code switching.
Yeah.
Like we're like for me, I'm code switching and masking both. Like we still learn
Exhausting.
really young that like okay, you have to suppress certain parts of yourself and you have to present a certain image in order to keep yourself safe. So I'm not saying like we should like I'm not saying masking is not is not like necessary. Sometimes it's the only way we can be safe in situations. Like we have to like keep ourselves safe, but at the same time, like years of masking, it makes it so much harder to then get help when you're older because people are believing who you've been projecting to the world for so long.
Yeah. And even if they
Plus
know
the
they're
cost.
fake, they choose to,
Of course,
because it benefits.
their idea of who you should be or who you are, who they think you are. Yeah.
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 It's all tied down to your level of productivity.
Yeah.
Wait,
Sucks.
you said something like in the car avec le fait que comme it was the reason why it was so hard to get like oh non je l'ai redit non je me répète never mind we said it quand on parlait de like est-ce que c'est un problème pour toi
Ou pour
or,
les
like,
autres, ouais.
like les autres ouais we said it
Ouais, c'est ça.
on a fait le tour.
Yeah,
We did.
Yeah.
we
It
have.
was. I cried a lot.
Yo,
That
this
was
is
so nice, though.
this is the first episode we cried, and Beck and I are big crybabies, but we never show it.
No, it's.
Y'all
that's
gotta
one of the
cry
first
more.
ones-
Next
Yeah.
episode, tears. Only.
Yeah, that's the name of the episode.
Tears.
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 Non,
Yeah.
merci Kayla d'être venue. It was.
Our good friend
really-
Kayla, like our
Yeah, that was a
good
pleasure.
friend Kayla.
Yeah. Définitivement, je vais m'arranger pour que comme there's a list, because I still have your list. I have
Oh ouais. Pour les
different lists
ressources.
de ressources que les gens peuvent avoir. You can go through the public, but moi, it was hell, so I gave up really, really fast. But si t'as un family doctor, please, you know, try. Je sais qu'il y a un collectif, I forgot the name, but there's a collective of Black people, Black queer, Black women people qui comme, ils amassent de l'argent and like they give money if you want to have like a therapist or like get diagnosis. I'm going to link them also in the description box. And I think, do you have the
Yeah, I
last word?
I think basically to summarize, don't, and it's hard, it's easier said than done because I still struggle with that, but your worth is not based on your level of productivity.
Yeah.
It's not. And the capitalist system that we live in, I feel like everything that is viewed as win or it's a success, it's all tied to productivity. And when you're unable to be as productive as society wishes you to be, there's immediately the sense of, I failed. But there's absolutely nothing wrong with you, everything wrong with the world.
Je vais même ajouter sur ça que comme we should deconstruct what this, c'est quoi la productivité.
Productivité, ouais.
Because
C'est
like,
ça.
baby, when I take a nap, I feel real
Productive.
productive. I feel real good.
That's also it. Yeah, it's something I also wanted to mention is like that we have to consciously make the choice to like unlearn all of these things. Like it's okay to take rest. That's not, you're not wasting time. You're honoring yourself. You're pouring into yourself. We have to consciously like unpack the internalized capitalism, the internalized ableism, because we all have it. Like, yeah, I have my diagnosis, but like the hardest part is really being like, okay, I'm allowed to ask for help. I'm allowed to ask for accommodations. It's okay if I'm struggling. Maybe I need to take a nap. Maybe I don't want to go to that party. We have to like truly believe it's okay and we are amazing as we are. And that takes time. That definitely takes time.
It does. It does.
Mm-hmm.
This was definitely a more emotional, very personal episode rather than this statistic show, this and that. So if you guys were expecting that type of episode, this is just real experiences, real stories. We are so grateful that you were so open with sharing your story. I can only imagine how many people this is gonna validate, and that was the whole point of it, is to feel validated, to feel heard, to feel like, okay, I'm not alone in this, because I know that getting that validation from Beck early on has helped me a lot to contextualize what was actually happening, because you know, but you really know when someone is like, yeah. So hopefully this is the that someone gets. And on that note, I'm Titi.
And I'm Beck.
And we're what the kids call
Woke or whatever.